Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Fitness Education Series produced by the Australian Fitness Academy. It's like progressive overload for your brain. I'm your host, Tom Rock, and today's episode, we've brought in Aaron. Hello, Aaron.
Hello.
We're going to have a nice, interesting discussion on the carnivore diet, which I can't believe the carnivore diet is actually a thing. That gets thrown around there. I would take one look at it and think, what's going on here? How do people think this is a good idea? Just based off the nationally endorsed Eat for Health guidelines, you can already sort of poke holes in the carnivore diet, I would have thought. But that's just me from an educated point of view. Aaron has gone down the other aspect, and Aaron's decided to jump on the carnivore diet. So today, we'll try and get his takes. Aaron, talk us through what's I guess just start us off with why you decided to try it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe give us a rundown of what it is, so people out there who are listening who rightfully probably haven't read into it, which is a good thing, can understand what it is, and how long you've currently been doing it for.
Sure. So I'll take the opposing view of the uneducated view then. No. Look, what the carnivore diet is, basically you are eating like a Neanderthal. It is that you are stripping back everything except for animal products.
Yep.
So there is no veggies, there is no fruit, there is no bread, rice, pasta, anything else like that, basically. Yep. So you are eating meat, fish, but basically any product you can think of from an animal is consumable.
Eggs are good?
Pardon?
Eggs?
Yep, eggs.
But not milk?
No, milk. Milk is recommended when it's low lactose.
Okay.
That's actually in the guidelines for it, which is convenient because I'm lactose intolerant. So it suits for that.
Yep.
Cream cheese falls under it, which I'll discuss too. Yep. Cheese falls under it, hard cheeses, not soft cheeses, because there's no fermentation process that you need with that too. Mm-hmm. Milk in limited amounts as well for that. So that's basically what it is. I am putting a disclaimer at the very beginning of this that my recommendation is not for anyone to actually do it.
Excellent.
I wanted to do this as a bit of a trial.
Yep.
Really. I was, bit of background to it, I was eating horribly through Feb and March, my son's birthday, into March. Just got really lazy with my diet.
Yep.
And I felt I needed a reset.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing myself and that a small reset for me isn't a reset, it's more of I will convince myself to cheat my way out of it. I wanted more of a hard reset.
Yep.
So having done a little bit of research into it, from the limited research that does exist on it, we'll get into that quite soon, I decided to run a trial on it for 2 months. Yep. So I turned 35. Day after that, in April, I decided, all right, this is going to be it. I'm going to do it. Yep. And my wife's not a fan in the slightest. And also I said from the outset, if there's any adverse health effects that I did feel outside of the normal ketosis phase and the symptoms of that, I'd stop it immediately.
Yep.
That's probably the background to it.
No, it's a good background. I think it's an interesting, the reset idea is an interesting one. And I think it is, well, I'm definitely not an advocate for the diet. And as Aaron said, we're not recommending anyone do the diet.
No. It's
more just a general discussion. This is just me just thinking now that Aaron talked about the reset and go, oh, my diet was average. And everyone goes through periods of it's just not the forefront of your mind. Yep. So especially over like holiday periods or just months where it's just busy, you end up eating, whether it's more takeaway, more convenient food, or chocolate, or you just go, you're just sick, so you just smash an ice cream on the couch.
Yep.
3 nights a week instead of maybe once a week. And it just adds up. So it goes, okay, I need a reset. And everyone's different. And that's where you'll probably have a lot of clients who come and go, I need to make changes, and they just want to stick to something specific.
Yes.
And that makes it potentially easier. So I'm not saying this is a great way to do it. Or I'm not saying this is a good way at all to do it. But
I'm going to preface it as well. I don't either, and I'd never recommend anybody to do it. But I know myself, and I knew what I wanted to do as well is do the right research into what I'm going to be missing.
Yeah.
Which I'll tell you exactly
We'll talk about. I think that idea of it, and that's probably the problem with nutrition in general these days, and how there's so much nutrition confusion, which we've talked about in a previous podcast.
Yep.
Is that people want strict rules because it's easier to follow. So I think
Yes.
obviously this is the strictest it gets, and it's pretty insane in my point of view. But I think sometimes we have to, if we're giving general health advice to, this is off the topic of carnivore, but being able to give someone relatively specific guidelines to follow makes it easier than just saying, oh, you can eat this, like it's fine to eat this in certain amounts. Like, well, I need rules to follow.
Yes.
And that's where I think the idea of a reset was an interesting one, because I think some people do come in and go, I just want to be good for 3 months.
Yep.
What do I do? And it's like, most of the time, if I was advocating a diet, I'd advocate small changes, lifestyle changes that you can implement for the next 20 years, not I need a three-month window of a short, sharp change. Because ideally, they'll go back to what they were doing and blow out again. But anyway, whole different discussion.
And then bringing that conversation full circle back to the carnivore side of things, my self-discipline is shocking. So I am working full-time, I am studying part-time and family. So for me, it was convenience.
Yep.
But if I actually had self-imposed rules on what I could be eating at that time, it was one less thing to think about. And also having it just as a trial period of 2 months with a get out clause at any time, really, for me was the right structure. So this is where I've had a couple of people, and there were some AFA students in the lunchroom the other day asking questions about it. I'm very careful in giving any form of advice or anecdotal feedback on it without the disclaimer.
Yeah, and I think it's good to have that that view and that opinion, because I think that's what's lacking in the whole fitness industry a lot of the time, because someone will try it and whether it works for them or doesn't work for them, they just go out and say this is the only way to do it and this is why you should do it. When realistically, you shouldn't push things like this or generally recommend them based on it's not really recommended.
No. Last thing I wanted to do was, it's not in my personality to do so, I wasn't going to create an Instagram page of Harry's Carnivore Journey, post progress photos of it and what I was eating in the day.
Yes.
That is the negative influence that is not necessary with it.
Yes, 100%.
Wanted to make sure that didn't happen.
Yep. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So, do you want to talk about what you found before going in? Or do you want me to find what I just...
Let's go really quickly into what I eat.
Let's go, good idea. Let's give it a rundown of what Aaron eats.
What my normal breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks is that I will smash through really quickly here.
Yep, give us a rundown.
Breakfast.
Yep, what do you got?
30 grams scoop of protein.
Yep.
In that is also 4 grams of creatine.
Yep.
This is with water too.
It's a protein shake.
Yep, but with 2 teaspoons of Benefiber.
Fiber was one of the things I wanted to touch on.
And I have 2 serves of what is from Bulk Nutrients called the Vital Premix that has 25% of your recommended daily intake of vitamins and minerals. That is where the potassium, calcium, magnesium, zinc come from. So I have that, which equals 2.92 grams. It made me buy the Bulk Nutrients mini scales that measure in micrograms. So the good selling tool and plug for them. I'd like a sponsorship back. That's great for the amount of money you spend through that. That's breakfast.
Yep.
So that's around 6:30 in the morning. Coffee.
Yep.
You're allowed coffee with low lactose free milk. Again, allowed is the in inverted commas. It depends on how strict you want to go with it.
Coffee is a plant-based product.
Coffee is a plant-based product. Yeah. So this is where, again...
Loophole.
No, not loophole.
No.
I loosened the restrictions on it because of the headaches that was caused from not having it.
Yeah, well, that's like probably a caffeine withdrawal.
With ketosis was shocking.
Yep.
Lunch, 200 to 250 grams of meat. At the moment, it's either Scotch fillet or porterhouse, all prawns, all cooked in ghee with salt. 80 grams of turkey.
Yeah.
That's lunch.
Nice.
Dinner, 300 grams of meat. That could be made up of steak or high fatty mince too, or burgers. So the actual burger though is literally just minced meat with an egg in there to bind it together.
Yep.
That is combined with lactose-free cheese, either grated or sliced. All that again, cooked in ghee with salt. No other seasoning. Snack-wise, we're getting there, snack-wise.
Great day.
Make sure that I have at least 4 boiled eggs every 2 days. That might be 4 in one day, or it might be two in one, two in the other, or spread across.
Yep.
I make sure that I have them. There is also some pretty good snacks that exist for this now too. The Barbell brand of jerky that do the air fried steak that you'll see in the health food section. And they also do some meat sticks, which is like a kangaroo beef brisket mix too.
Yep.
And low lactose free cream cheese. And the other thing that I allowed myself to do, because it technically is an animal product, but the carnivore community that I'm definitely not a part of will argue it, honey.
Honey, yes.
50 grams of lactose-free cream cheese, 50 grams of honey, maximum 3 times a week.
Yep.
Because if it's going into ketosis, I'm having honey every day. There's no point taking myself out of it.
Yeah, you won't be. That's, sugar.
Yeah. So that's the breakdown of the day. I also then finish the day with just water and another 2 servings of the Vital Premix, which is 100% of the recommended daily intake of vitamins and minerals, more just because I want to.
Yep.
I don't have to reach 100%. I think it's I reach 75% in a day.
Yep.
That's probably the breakdown of my day.
Very, very informative.
I think you said it sounded like a good day at one point.
Yeah, sounds like an interesting day.
And Tom and I always go back and forth when it's lunchtime about we'll heat up my steak.
Steak, yeah.
Tom has his very well balanced meat, veggies,
and rice usually.
And rice. Deviating quickly to the research.
Yep.
What I found there is 2 things. One was a study in 2020 in America from Boston University and through Boston Hospital too. And they did a survey of adults self-identifying and consuming a carnivore diet.
Yes.
Did you read this one?
I looked into this one, yes.
Yep. For 6 months.
Yep.
They tested their motivation, dietary intake patterns, nutritional deficiencies, what they felt, or any adverse effects, what their satisfaction was, did they have any prior or current health conditions, what were their anthropometrics, and any lab data. I will also say that I was smart in getting my bloods done beforehand.
That's good.
Before I started this, I wanted to just do it because at the end of the 2 months, I don't want to just see a photo or scales. I want to also see internally
what happened.
Am I messed up from it?
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that.
What they found, if you're looking forward to him being messed up.
No, I'm looking forward to the bloods before and after, yeah.
What they found was that adults consuming a carnivore diet experienced few adverse effects instead of reported health benefits and high satisfaction. Cardiovascular disease risk factors were variably affected. The generalization of these findings and long-term effects of the dietary pattern require further study, which means inconclusive.
Yes. So I sort of come across the same study.
Yep.
And I saw an article that talked about the study, and it's an interesting. Well, there's not actually any research really on the carnivore diet specifically. No. This one was, but it's on self-reported people who are self-reporting how they're going with the diet. Mm-hmm. It's from a group of people who are sort of into the carnivore diet, so probably wanting to advocate for it.
Yep.
While they sort of talked about health conditions and what their health was, we actually don't know how healthy they were going into the carnivore diet. So maybe if they've stopped eating like just complete junk food, this is probably not going to make them feel worse, but it's also probably not. It's not like comparing someone who's eating a very well-balanced holistic diet going to just removing all food groups. So it
becomes a false positive.
It does. It's a little bit of like, wishy-washy.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I think study.
What do you got?
This one more focused on assessing the nutrient composition of a carnivore diet.
Yeah, okay.
So this is where I'll talk about my personal circumstances around it and my feelings on how I actually feel. But what this was saying was that it met several of the national nutrient reference values of riboflavin, niacin, phosphorus, zinc, vitamin B6, B12, and vitamin A, and also, surprise, surprise, exceeded the sodium threshold.
Yes. So, and then it went on to say, however, it fell short in thiamine, magnesium, calcium, and vitamin C, and in iron, folate, iodine, and potassium.
Correct. Exactly the same study that we had. So, what this is, and this is why I wanted to say that research first, is I wanted to see what I'm missing out on.
Yep.
Not food wise, because that's the obvious side of things, but essential nutrients that I was missing out on. That vital premix is a good thing, but it's like a bit of a band-aid.
Absolutely.
Because there is very, very low vitamin C.
Yep.
Actually, none.
Yep.
That you can record unless you supplement that.
Yep.
Correctly. So there are certain things that there's a reason why I'm only doing for 2 months, 3 months. There's a reason why it's not a long-term diet either. So I have been on this now for a full month.
Yep.
This is now week 5.
Yep.
I started at 90 kilos on the dot.
Yep.
This morning, I knew I was going to poke you to do this podcast. So weighed in at exactly 85 kilos.
85 kicks.
That is, I've only trained yesterday as part of this.
Yep.
So it's only just been diet up to this point. Now, that again is a little bit of a false positive because, of course, my kilojoule intake throughout the day is lower. So energy out, even if I'm not exercising with a focus towards it. There's the incidental exercise of my steps are still 6,000 or 7,000 per day. My intake is just that. The first week was probably, I would say, on level with having the flu, but not just the keto flu, but really bad.
Really bad.
Horrid.
No carbs.
No carbs.
Yeah.
It was like headaches, dizziness. No, I'm really selling it here.
Yeah.
Headaches, dizziness, nausea.
That's fine. We should be selling it.
Shocking sleep.
Yep.
Day 6. So I started on a Monday. Sunday, it reversed.
Yeah, okay.
My sleep got better.
Yep.
My dermatitis in my skin got better. My energy levels were back up to better than it was beforehand.
Yep.
And I felt really good.
Yep.
That's continued all the way through till now.
Yep.
That is, and again, I know there's a lot of disclaimers in this podcast, but that is my individual feeling of it.
Yep.
It is not a one size fits all. I can guarantee you that too.
Absolutely.
And there are only a few things that I miss from a cravings point of view. I miss bread.
Bread, nice.
This is my heated up bread. Warm bread, smell of that.
Yep.
And seasonings.
Yeah. Yep.
Salsa smell with the paprika and the like taco bowl salsa.
So everything's quite bland.
It's so bland.
Yeah.
Ghee is good.
Butter. Yeah.
Good. Butter and salt.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, you're missing the sugars from a sauce.
Yeah, the flavors. Yep.
Hand on heart, I don't really eat that much fruit anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't miss rice. I don't miss pasta. I don't miss it. I don't miss chocolate. I don't miss sugar. I don't miss lollies. But there is one small problem. Because I'm eating so much meat at meal times, the diet of my 4-year-old son, he's developed a taste for medium rare cooked porterhouse steaks on a regular basis.
Yeah, nice.
And he wants to eat like dad.
Yep.
So I have to eat outside of meal times now because he will refuse to eat his veggies.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's not ideal.
No.
I would say.
No.
Very interesting. I think I sort of found the same study that you had, so I won't sort of touch on that in terms of the falling short of the vitamins and minerals. I think which is something that's obviously, if you look at it and be like, well, you're not getting fruit and vegetables. Of course, fruit and vegetables. Of course, you're going to miss out on all these vital nutrients. As you've said, you've sort of replaced them with supplements, as well as the fiber, which can be an issue for gut health and things like that. So if people were doing this and they don't do that, that's going to keep them more issues.
Is so many
But also, it's probably cheaper to eat broccoli.
Yep.
And so if you make these decisions, you've got to realize you're probably going to have issues.
Yes.
Or you some serious financial burdens.
Yes.
To offset you not wanting to eat vegetables and fruit and carbohydrates and fiber.
Correct.
So it's an interesting one. And that's sort of generally all the thoughts and stuff from dietitians and things is that it's nonsense. Other people talk about like skipping fruits and vegetables, won't have fiber, miss out on carotenoids and polyphenols, like which are antioxidants.
Yes.
That lower risk of chronic diseases, type 2 diabetes, some forms of cancer, all sorts of things. So There's so much negatives about this diet that I just can't get over it.
No.
But yeah, so I think for me, it makes a case of like it's a strict rule, and I think it's obvious people lose weight because do you know what kilojoules you're taking in? Have you ever added up the kilojoules for the day, or not really?
I haven't.
It'd be
Only
interesting.
because it's hard to nail down sometimes with how much fat content is in my steak.
The butter and stuff
And
is
the
makes
butter.
it
I
different.
weigh my butter.
Okay.
Weigh my butter, so I cook in 50 grams of ghee every single time. But
Yep.
It's really hard with the no porterhouse is exactly the same. I'm not
Yeah,
cutting them.
but you could get an average.
You could
And
get
it's
an
always going
average.
to be, no matter
No.
what food you're getting, it's always
No,
like
I did it more just from the measurement of grams per day. Of what
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
having,
I
so
think
that
it'd be
was
interesting to
consistent.
see the kilojoules.
Yeah. My final point before Tom signs off on this as well and gives
Yep.
his final point on it too. I do have an end game with this.
Mhm.
So my end game in my hard reset is to probably eat a carnivore style diet at least 3 times a week.
Yep.
Through my lunches.
Yep.
And some dinners. But this for me is then giving my own self the ability to reintroduce just the vegetables and portion controlled carbohydrates of pasta, bread,
Yep.
rice when I'm doing that
Yep.
post June. So that's my end game, is to bring in the whole foods when it's time that I say that it is time to do so.
Yep.
So that for me becomes my norm. So
Yeah.
basically what a normal healthy diet is. And again, like Tom's saying, can't get his mind around it. My wife can't believe that why didn't I just do that in the first place? Because it
Yeah.
would have been a hell of a lot cheaper.
Yep.
Too. And that reason was because I do not have the self-discipline, even though I know it, to do that. So this was my way of pressing reset to be able to reintroduce it. Again, I'll just say I'm not advocating it at all, but steak is delicious.
Steak is delicious, but you can also add mashed potato and broccoli, and it's even better.
Yeah, probably. And I do miss the mushroom sauce.
Oh yeah, mushroom sauce. No, red wine juice.
So, the red one is you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
No, I think it's interesting. That's what and again, Aaron does what Aaron wants. So, but in terms of getting clients to eat better, a lot of it always generally comes down to if you can get rid of takeaway foods and obviously help them understand kilojoules and what's in takeaway versus what's in whole foods.
Yeah.
Eating steak, broccoli, and mashed potato, you could almost eat that in any amount and you'd be fine. Potato, like the carbohydrates, like the rices and the pastas, I think the only thing about them is just teaching them portion control.
Yes.
I think there's nothing wrong with carbohydrates. They're actually really good for energy and training, especially if you're more of an athlete or you want to be performing in the gym and things like that and exercising. Like it's going to come down to kilojoules. So that's why I'd be interested to see what Aaron's kilojoules are.
Yeah.
And then once he works out what they are, we can just manipulate this, cut down some meat, put in a little bit of carbs, add some vegetables and fruit in there, and he's going to have the same results, but with nutrients.
Yes.
And all that money he was spending on supplements, he can give to me for fixing his diet. So maybe we do that.
The only other point that I'll put into that is that exactly what the point that Tom has made. That's your advice for the client. Well, the client doesn't realize though when they have their steak and their mashed potato and their broccoli is the sauces that we literally just talked about too.
Yeah.
That's the hidden kilojoules that they're not seeing. It's the sugars that sit within your bottled and packaged sauces at the shops that they're
It is like
and you're allowed to have them. There's nothing wrong
absolutely.
with
I
that.
think if you're eating with whole foods, it's like the marinades and things. They're not going to cook you over the edge.
No.
It's generally going to be the snacks you're eating
Yes.
with the high fat or just the. Oh, I'm not going to talk about Cocoa Pops. It's a future podcast. But all the different like things you're eating that are packaged that have no protein
Yes.
and just a sugar, like high sugar content, which is not a sauce. Like sauces have high sugar, but as long as you're not eating half a tub of tomato sauce,
Correct.
it adds flavour, and it's going to add flavour to the good quality food that you're eating around that. But if you're eating takeaways and deep fried foods and things like that, that's where it's easy for kilojoules to blow out, or ice creams and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that exactly what Tom said, and it's a future podcast to do. If you look on the back of a packet and you don't know what number that additive actually is and what that contains, or you can't pronounce the word that sits on the back of a packet, probably not for you.
Yeah. I think this is also an interesting discussion because the more and more these days, you'll be a personal trainer like me or a coach, and you'll have a client like Aaron come in who's been like, I'm starting the carnivore diet, and I'll be like, oh my god, what do I do? And you, like, as a personal trainer, it's my job to educate him or the client on, okay, if that's what they want to do, or their friends doing that, that's great, but it's okay to provide them some information on, well, this is why the healthy eating guidelines say this, this, and this. These are the vitamins and minerals that you get from broccoli, from fruit, from vegetables. Have you considered what you're missing out on in this sort of diet? And that, it's not telling them what, like, you obviously have to, they're there for your advice potentially, but it helps them improve their health and well-being in the long run. And if they haven't considered it, it may get them to start considering it eventually. Or if they start seeing adverse effects from that sort of diet, they might think, oh, maybe my personal trainer can help me balance this out in a balanced diet where I can still sort of manage my weight effectively.
Yeah, I reckon that's spot on.
Yeah. Anyway, well, thanks for jumping on, Aaron.
Thanks for having me.
It was an interesting.
Get as heated as what I thought.
Yeah, no, we kept it quite civil, which was good.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, appreciate it. It's a good insight, and I think, again, I always talk about trying different things and exercises and programs in the gym before you provide them to clients. This is not something I would prescribe to a client in the slightest, but someone's got to try them. And if Aaron wants to take one for the team, he's by all means can do it.
Yeah, the carnivore diet's kind of like the upright row.
Yeah.
I'm not
don't need a shoulder impingement, but someone's going to try it. Thanks for jumping on, Aaron.
Thanks, mate.
If anyone's got any questions or thoughts on this podcast, feel free to email tom@afa.com.au. If you've got any topics or questions you'd like us to cover as well, also send me an email. Other than that, guys, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you all soon.